Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Ardavan, and I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank the team at the Pipeline Meetup InfoShare for setting this up. I understand I'm the only English speaker, so I hope that everybody will be able to understand me. And I'm going to share with the audience today how to suck at enterprise sales in just a few points. I know that there's a lot of material out there to explain how to be good at selling and how to excel. And I thought, maybe people are tired with that and they just want to know how to be truly mediocre in their job. And that's my role today, to be sharing some thoughts on how we can achieve that. So as a bit of background, I have been in sales for half of my life. If you're thinking sales in terms of door-to-door sales based on commission in the other side of the world, yes, I've been there. If you're thinking about selling services across Europe with contracts up to tens or hundreds of thousands of euros, yes, I've done that for a few years as an individual or as a manager, of course. And the past 7 years, I spent in marketing technology, selling SaaS products in the US and Europe, again, with contracts in the six figures. So when I speak about enterprise sales, what I have in mind is fairly expensive contracts, but also complex sales where it takes a few months typically to get through a few validation points and meet different people to get the contracts approved. And after spending all that time looking at people succeed and fail and recruiting them and making recruiting mistakes, training mistakes, and so on, I have come to the conclusion that yes, it is possible for everybody to become truly mediocre. And I hope that today I can share those 5.3 items on how we can achieve it. Now, before I start, you may notice I have an accent. I'm actually French. In France, we have terrible sense of humor and a lot of sarcasm. And I hope that what I say today is not taken too literally. And I hope that from explaining how to be terrible, everybody can understand how to not be that terrible. But I did want to mention it just in case this video is put out there and I am in trouble. I just wanted to be clear on the intentions. So I have 5.3 lessons to share, and I hope that they make sense to you. If not, I'll be happy to take questions at the end. The first mediocrity lesson is don't waste any time preparing. I mean, preparation is overrated, right? Why prepare your meetings? Why prepare your presentations? Think about it in those terms. Think about a meeting you have that's coming, attendee lists. A really smart salesperson would try to get people that they think are important, try to confirm that they are coming, try to check that they clicked the yes in the invite. When they see their names, they might want to research them on LinkedIn, research them on Google to see if those people actually have worked with competition before. But all of that is really pointless, and confirming an attendee list and making sure that you know is just a huge waste of time, I think. And it's a lot more fun to just discover out of the 10 people that were invited if 2 are going to show up, or 6, or maybe 15, maybe some people that were uninvited. In the same way, confirming an agenda, that's a thing of the past. That's for losers. Why go through a presentation and confirm with the team before the meeting happens what exactly is going to be covered? Because if you do that, like most top salespeople do, you might actually run a really good presentation that gets people really bought in, and that they understand, and that they don't lose track, and they don't feel it's off topic. But then where's the mystery, right? If all of that is great, there's not as much fun in it. So I don't think that preparing an agenda and confirming it is a good idea. And the last one is true top salespeople work with the champion and they try to make sure that there is no surprise in the meeting. By the way, the term champion might need a quick definition. A lot of people think a champion is somebody who's nice and who likes you, or who likes your company or your product. But in different methodologies, and one of them that I like is customer-centric selling, I think they have a really strong definition. A champion has to do two things to qualify as a champion. The first thing is they have to validate that your solution or your services solve problems that they are trying to solve. And the second thing is they have to open doors internally, to introduce you to various people, to help you navigate. If somebody is super nice and they're willing to speak to you all the time, but they have no authority and they can't open doors and they don't introduce you, it's a huge red flag. Why do I say this? Because if you have a real champion and if you're a top sales executive, you can actually be working with them and make sure that from the moment the meeting starts to the moment it ends, there are no unexpected things that happen. But again, this is only stuff that top sales execs do. So I advise you against all those three things so that you don't waste any time preparing and you can be more spontaneous. I hope that makes sense. A bit like this, you see? Look how much energy Phoebe has because she's unprepared. And I think it's a great thing to participate in and be more like Phoebe in order to reach sales mediocrity. Lesson number 2. By the way, I have the full presentation here. I don't see anything happening over there. Am I making sense? Are there any, is anybody not hearing me or anything like that? Yeah, I'm going to assume we're all good. I hope we are all good. The lesson number 2 is to be super naive, super innocent, to be a yes woman or a yes man. Because if you look at really successful sales executives, you will see that they spend extraordinary amounts of time on things that are really stressful. They wonder, what could go wrong? This new person just arrived in the conversation. Who are they? Where do they come from? Do they have influence? Could they make this thing blow up? There's been news about problems within this company. Will this affect the budgets? Will people get fired? Will I lose all my contacts? Whew, that is stressful. I don't like these thoughts. I don't think we should have them. Likewise, double checking, triple checking facts and not believing what you heard once that sounded good is difficult. I don't think it's that much fun to do the difficult things. So if the intern in the first meeting said that it was a really important problem for the organization and they had a great budget allocated to it, why ask actual decision makers about it again? What if they say something else? We don't want to find out until the very, very end. We want to keep the surprise element and the mystery so that for the longest period of time, we can believe the deal can happen. Only then, if we blow it at the very end, can we bathe and enjoy the mediocrity of the situation we'll be in. And those are really key points. And connecting dots, you will see people who are always connecting dots, thinking, but look, there is a new investment that Google made in this field. Is this going to compete with our initiatives? Or is Amazon's web services going to impact this with the new GDPR law or whatever? It must be exhausting to be a very, very successful sales executive, because doing all this thinking, I'm already tired just thinking about it. I don't know you, but I don't want to be doing any of that. And I think being a yes woman, a bit dumb, but very happy, is great. What's wrong with having some duct tape on your face and showing all your teeth in a big smile? I think that's lesson number 2, and it's a very important one, Lesson number 3. To achieve mediocrity, it's important to wait until the very, very end of all conversations and then try to get the deal closed like crazy. Because whenever I've observed the greatest and most successful sales execs, they never seem to be very salesy or aggressive in their closing, because they do weird things that I don't like. For example, maybe in the first meeting, they'll say something like, today is the first conversation, and if you feel like what we provide you and what we find out about your situation shows a fit and we can help you solve some of your most pressing problems, we can then organize a demo in a couple of weeks and a workshop, and then within 6 weeks you will be able to make an informed decision. But if you don't like what you see today, then we can just stay friends and we don't have to take any more of your time. They say things like this, which means that very early on they lay out the milestones, people understand where they're going, and that means that they are preparing the future. And again, I don't think that's a very mediocre thing to do. I wouldn't go there. That's not what I do when I try to be really mediocre. Closing has to do with pricing. Truly exceptional salespeople are not afraid of price questions. And I'll share one example of what I've seen people do that is excellent, and therefore I advise you against it. Please do not do this, because it could work. Somebody asks very early on, so how much does this cost? Well, you don't want to give the actual price. You might not even know the actual price for them, of course. But what if you said something like, well, our smallest clients pay about $20,000 a year. Our largest clients pay over $100,000 a year. That depends on X, Y, and Z as the parameters that we use to come up with the pricing. And once we have determined that there is a good fit, I will be very happy to prepare a custom quote for you. That would enable companies that can't afford 20K, which if it is the minimum price point, to eliminate themselves and disqualify themselves, save everybody time. But then that's efficiency. We don't want that. That would allow people to get a sense of, oh, well, if I'm not too small and it's 20 to 100, maybe I'd be at 40, maybe I'd be at 60. And that will decrease the surprise element at the end, and they will have maybe more time to prepare a good budget and the funds for this. But that's less poker, there's less of the bluffing and, hey, maybe they think it's 500,000 and they're just going to love it when they realize it's just 25,000. So yeah, that's a really good reason not to do it, and really keep all the hard closing at the end. And so the top salespeople, they seem to never hope for a big yes at the end if they haven't got all the small yeses, all the small closes. So I think for me, they just ruin the whole fun. Instead of building these things up and then there's a final explosion, and the explosion is either a yes in 6% of the cases or a no in 94% of the cases. But then they just find out too early, they eliminate, they spend their time on the clients that can close, and no. I think that's too different from the Glenn Ross movie, where you see Alec Baldwin with his Rolex and his $80,000 BMW yell and spit on salespeople who are unsuccessful. Alec Baldwin is my idol in sales, and I want to become like him. I don't want to be modern and low-key and successful and humble sales executive. That's lesson number 3. Now, I know everybody's wondering why it's 5.3. That's a surprise. It's a small surprise, but it's a surprise. Lesson number 4. Champions are pointless. Champions. Man, what a weird word. I think it was made up by Americans. Why are they champions? Why is it that the best salespeople seem to become married to their champion? And they're like, oh, I have this champion, and I called my champion, and my champion this, and my champion that. We live in the digital age. With LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram, who needs human relationships? You can just do social selling, and with great content out there, the sales are going to happen on their own. So I'm not sure what this whole thing with building relationships with the champions are, and I don't agree with that. Plus, I don't like the word champion anyway. I don't know about you, I hate that word. And what I think is, if you just pitch like crazy in every meeting, you get up, you shake your hands like crazy, you dance on the table, that energy will convince people, right? And people will buy. you don't really need somebody inside the organization who knows everybody else, who knows who influences what, who knows the problems the organization is facing to become your ally and fill you in and guide you and help you and become your partner. It's like cheating. You don't want to be a cheater, do you? No, you don't. So no champions. If you truly want to be mediocre, drop the champions and be like this gentleman trying to understand what's happening in the accounts. See? I look a lot like this when I'm thinking about what's going on in my accounts. And I think it's a pretty cool look. I hope you sometimes look like this too, as you are preparing your pipeline reviews for your manager. Getting to lesson number 5. It's one of the most important ones. When you think of sales, or maybe not when you think of sales, because if you are in sales, you might think of it differently. But when most people think of sales, what are some of the stereotypes that come to their mind? We don't want to let them down, do we? We want to live up to those expectations of used car salesmanship and these kind of things. So for example, salespeople have the habit of speaking too much, too loud, too fast, and smile like this. You know, the Colgate smile. We have to do that. We don't want to let the audience down on what they think sales should be like. So yeah, we have to embrace that stereotype. If they ask a question, either about price, which we just discussed, or even with, but how long does it take to implement? We don't want to give an answer, because if we did, we might actually come across as different. And they might think that we are not professional in sales. And they might want to speak with another sales executive within the organization, and we might lose the account. So if they ask you how much it takes to get started or how long it takes to get started, you should just say, well, thank you for asking. That depends. Thank you very much. That is the true expected answer when they ask this question. And I hope that you agree. And when you are presenting your proposal, of course, they know that you are going to have 56 slides with all the pitch again and all the benefits and the pictures of the team. And on the very, very last slide, after 90 minutes of looking at a presentation, there's going to be the actual price of what they've been looking. So let's imagine that you started by presenting maybe the problem you're solving and the price on slide 4. That could surprise them. You know, they'd be like, wow, I know after 6 minutes in the meeting how much this is. After the 6 meetings we've had over 2 months, they're just actually presenting me an offer. Something is shady about this organization, and I'm going to find out what it is, and I'm going to hold off, and I'm not going to sign this contract because obviously something is wrong with this team. So if you want to be a good stereotype and live up to the stereotype, always remember, Michael Scott is your friend, and you can call him up anytime. Fantastic, Michael Scott. I miss him. Now, lesson 5.3. Why was there a point 3? It was my trick to tease you into staying until 7 p.m. to understand what it was. I could really have called it lesson 6, but that would have been very, very plain, you know, not a lot of fun. 5.3 is the way to twist your mind, to play with it. So hopefully you've stayed this far to the end of the presentation. And I think that's, if you don't do this lesson 5.3, you will never be truly mediocre. You might become actually decent, then good, then excel. So that's a really foundational thing that I wanted to wrap up on. Remember when we were trained in sales over the years that there are really 3 to 4 things we need to do that are very basic, that we must always keep in mind. Those things were, look for a pain first. What is the problem? But that's not enough to have a problem. Most people have dozens of problems that they can mention in a conversation. But is it a problem that they're not aware of? Is it a problem that doesn't matter? Is it a problem that matters, but that they can easily work around with other approaches? Or is it a problem that is pressing enough, painful enough, that annoys them to the point where they have to address it, to solve it? If that's the case, then there usually should be a plan and a budget to address it. And if all of those things are there within the organization already, then our role in sales is to build a champion, to discover who is going to be the champion, to help us navigate all the obstacles that will be coming. But as I look through this, I don't find it that exciting. I don't find it new enough. In the social media age, I think we should just change everything every 3 to 6 months, just like in fashion. And so I really think that those principles, that's not because they're followed by top salespeople who excel and overachieve their quota and become rich and get promoted, that we shouldn't question them deeply. And I think that they're just too old. I want stuff that's new. I want principles that are new. I don't want to do this old stuff. So what I want to do is build a demo and a deck that looks like the latest Avengers movie with explosions everywhere. That is going to be so cool that if I show it, they have to buy and they will have no choice. And that's how I'm going to work on being mediocre. So that's 5.3. Forget the basics, forget the lessons, forget what works. Just throw everything away and try whatever is fun. And I think that you will be on your way to joining me on the path to mediocrity. So congratulations. I've been through the 5.3 items on my lessons today. And if you follow them to the letter, I think you will be able to join me and we can become long-term friends and mediocrity partners. A last GIF that illustrates this whole mediocrity concept that I found to be pretty cool because it's in heavy metal too, so that's really important. And I hope that through the sarcasm and the terrible jokes and the awful GIFs that I shared, it was clear what I was really thinking, and that there were some items that you could take. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much for bearing with me. And if you would like to connect, if you would like to grab coffee, I partner in Poland with the North Star Consulting Group, and I also exist as an individual on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me and ask me any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for a very funny way to remind us what's the basic, what's the most important tools for sales. Yeah, and right now I know what you meant by this 5.3 lessons. Very great way to really to make us stick to the end of the presentation. And I think that this lesson is really important. We've got some some discussion during your presentation about this lesson number 5 and champions and being with touch, building relationships, human relationships, of course. And you mentioned that this LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and so on. They are you can use it to be mediocre in some way, salesman. Yeah? So it's a little bit contradictory to our previous speeches where Marcin and Łukasz showed some way how to use LinkedIn, but as well to build some relationships with let's say champions. Yeah. So what do you think about it? So do you use the social selling method or completely not? What do you prefer?
Thank you. And I of course I could not understand the previous presentation, so I didn't know that I was contradicting them. But the first thing is, I think it's okay to contradict. I think it shows that there are different ways that different people reach success. And I've been very fortunate to reach some good level of success in various endeavors and doing things differently, different people, different approaches to building your business success. I think it's an encouraging thing to see. And so I don't... I know there can be a lot of contradictory advice, and I think it's okay so that everybody can pick what they can relate with and what works for them. Now, to answer your question on do I use them, of course I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Of course I've sent dozens of emails that never get any response. Of course I build relationships on LinkedIn, and there are people that I've met in real life that I would not have met without LinkedIn. My key point in this kind of joke that I make is that building relationships isn't dependent on the tool, and there is no substitute for conversations. You can have conversations on LinkedIn, you can have conversation over the phone, you can have conversation over coffee, over lunch, over Zoom, over we're using this live system here also to have conversations. Building relationships is a multi-channel thing. It means having conversations over various channels over long periods of time, giving and taking, and you can do that on whatever channel that you like to use. But over the past few years, I've seen so many people promote that email is dead, that the old way of selling is dead, that this is dead, that this is dead. And the people who usually do that are people who have a venturous interest in selling LinkedIn or selling consultancy on LinkedIn or selling consultancy on TikTok. And so I think it's okay for them to say it, but from what I've observed in enterprise software sales over the past 10 years, 90% of the business, or even probably 90+% of the pipeline that I've seen does not come from social selling. It comes from a mix of email, events, referrals. It's a very, very complex and multi-dimensional thing. And my point is, don't believe the hype. Don't drop everything that's been working for 20, 30 years to just go full blast only on LinkedIn Sales Navigator or on TikTok. Remember that although the technologies change and so on, humans don't. And you can't go wrong building relationships with humans. I hope it makes sense.
Yes, I believe too. This, so remember what's the basic. Remember, that relationships is between humans, and not, just a kind of, let's say, a LinkedIn profile, and some that. So you have to take into account that there are different channels, different ways of building these relationships. Yeah. And you shouldn't, put everything on, let's say, one tool, which is right now a hype or something. Okay, so thank you very much.
May I add something very quickly on this? Is a lot of times when I had sales people who were not doing well, I would ask them, when was the last time you spoke to your champion on this account or to your friend? They said, oh, it was 3 weeks ago, but I sent him an email yesterday and I slacked him today. Like, an email is worth nothing. I mean, call him, go see him, have a conversation. Stop answering with, I sent an email or I sent a LinkedIn message or I slacked him or whatever. This doesn't count. Meet people, have conversations, keep the conversations warm. And sorry, I'm going to start ranting if I continue, so I let you speak.
Okay. We've got a question from Simon. Is it possible, in your opinion, for an Eastern European SaaS tech company to sell good on enterprise level in France, UK, or USA?
Of course it is. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. In fact, I haven't searched the topic, but I know that one of the biggest players in MarTech right now is a Turkish company called Insider. and they're coming big in Europe. They have today a conference on a video conference that is global, and they invited Barack Obama as a speaker on their conference. And they come from a place that most people wouldn't associate as the next place that would build a unicorn for MarTech. And there's great talent in Eastern Europe from the little experience that I have. And I'm sure that it's already the case, actually, that if we look up, you know what, I'm going to look, where are the big companies that have started in Eastern Europe? I'm sure they are already. And yes, they can succeed in Western Europe and the US.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've got, a few examples, good examples of, for example, pipeline from Estonia. For Estonia, yeah, it's a unicorn. We've got in Poland quite a decent number of, let's say maybe not at the moment, not unicorns, but on a way to be. Some SaaS companies in MarTech, not only in MarTech. So I think that it's possible as well.
Yeah, so, and even in B2C, Vinted, which is from Lithuania, is absolutely skyrocketing in France.
Great. I wasn't aware of it. Of course, I know Vinted. It's present in Poland as well, and very soaring, and acquiring market. But I wasn't aware that in France is the same. It's like that's great.
It's huge. Yeah, it's awesome. I agree.
Okay. So thank you very much once again for your time, for your patience. For everyone who's got other questions to Ardavan, please feel free, to contact him via LinkedIn or email. It'll be presented on the last slide of your presentation, so you can use it. And thank you very much, Ardavan.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure.
Yeah, see you maybe in the future somewhere, on a face-to-face.
It would be my pleasure. I launched the subsidiary of one of my companies in Poland 9 years ago, and I moved on. So I used to come to Warsaw quite a bit, and so who knows? I would be happy to come. So thank you everybody very much. Have a great evening, and I hope you had a good day.
Thank you very much.